The next death battle is said to be the Sentry, the marvelous man with the power of 1 million exploding suns, versus SuperBoy-Prime, the Kryptonian DC nerd that packs a powerful retcon punch. As people, we've all had our ups and downs, but I don't think anyone else has had ups as high and downs as low as these two. So stick around to find out who wins. But first, introductions.
Get out of your uniform and get ready for action.
He's back. Before Bob Reynolds knew anything else, he knew that he was back. The Void was back. He knew it was time to suit up for him to return, for the Sentry to return. But there was something nagging at him from the back of his mind, something strange, indecipherable, a question for which he had no answer. Who exactly was the Sentry? What even was the Void? Who was he? His wife seemed to think he was some drunk, but that couldn't be right. He remembered being a superhero. The Sentry was real, he had powers. He could read minds, fly, he could even manipulate matter, and the power of 1 million exploding suns, he could match powerhouses like Thor and the Hulk. But even with all that power, no one seemed to remember him. Even the smartest man in the universe, one of his best friends, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, knew nothing. None of the other heroes seemed to remember him either. Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk did, but he's the Hulk, because he's just fucking cool. But it's not like they forgot him. It's more like he was erased from reality itself. Photos of him came up blank. All records of him seemed to be erased. It was hell. It was his own personal hell. But, as it turns out, maybe that hell was exactly what he asked for. You see, Robert Reynolds was a drug addict. He was always chasing his next high. But after breaking into a mysterious lab one night, he found something that would get him higher than anyone else in the world. The Golden Century Serum, an attempt to recreate the super soldier serum that gave Captain America his powers. It was ingested by Reynolds, causing a massive explosion, encompassing the entire lab. When the creator of the serum returned, Sentry begged for more. As Bob Reynolds used to be addicted to drugs, the Sentry was now addicted to power, the high of being a superhero, the high of defeating villains like the Void, his arch nemesis, of being so powerful it makes the Hulk look like a child. It's even implied to be one of the plagues God sent upon Egypt. But the Void wasn't just Sentry's arch nemesis. He was something much more personal. He was Sentry. He was his shadow self, the manifestation of his own mental health. Bob Reynolds is a diagnosed agoraphobic schizophrenic. Agoraphobia is classified as an intense, irrational fear of situations where escape may be difficult or help won't be available if things go wrong. Schizophrenia is classified as a form of psychosis where a person might have trouble distinguishing reality from their own thoughts and ideas, and the Void fed off those fears. He was an everlasting darkness that Bob could never escape, and lived off his fears and insecurities. And it wasn't just coming for him, it was after the entire universe, and it was all the Sentry's fault. Before he was back as the Sentry, Bob unconsciously implanted his memories into a comic book writer called Paul Jenkins' mind, causing him to write about the adventures of the Sentry, inadvertently making Sentry remember himself, and waking the Void back up. In Bob Reynolds' mind, it was all his fault, but he was going to fix it, the same way he fixed it the first time, by making everyone forget, including himself. So, once again, Sentry would sacrifice himself, and return to the life of Bob Reynolds. But it wouldn't last. Sentry would return, and then the Void would too. Nothing would stop it. No matter what he did, nothing would work. Even death. Sentry has been reduced to a skeleton, and even removed from time itself. But nothing worked. Nothing would make the Void go away. So, during his battle with Null, when he was killed, Sentry decided not to come back. He thought that maybe death would be better. Kinda. No one would hurt him, and he wouldn't be able to hurt anyone. Maybe he could finally be at peace. But death is no way to live. Sentry already knew that he would never be free of the Void. But maybe that was never the goal. Instead of running from ourselves, our own fears, our minds, maybe we have to learn to live with it. We have to learn to be comfortable with ourselves. Eventually, the Sentry would return. His life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, but he's doing what he can. He's doing what we all can, trying our best and taking it one step at a time. This kind of video is pretty new to me, so if you enjoy it, remember to like and subscribe. You can also hype if you're on mobile. You can suggest matchup ideas too. Now, on to Prime. Clark Kent loved Superman, or, more accurately, comic books. Hailing from Earth Prime, a world where DC comics are just fiction, he thought he was little more than your average comic book nerd. Raised by adopted parents, Jerry and Naomi Kent, after he was teleported away from a dying Krypton, he lived a relatively normal life, dealing with bullies and crushing on local girl Laurie until the crisis on Infinite Earths. During a beach party, he met up with our Superman and unlocked his powers. Given that he is a variant of Supes, he has all of the powers, abilities, and resistances that come with his Kryptonian physiology, and more. While battling the Anti-Monitor with Earth 1 Supes and his idol, Earth 2 Superman, he chose to stay behind with Golden Age Clark and Alexander Luthor, Earth 3 son of Lex Luthor, who has the power to harness both matter and antimatter. He chose to stay, to sacrifice himself to help defeat the Anti-Monitor and create the new universe. But, using the last of his strength, Luthor created a pocket dimension where he, Superboy, Superman, and the Earth 2 version of Lois Lane that he saved could live together in harmony and watch over the new universe they helped create. They believed they had created a paradise. They were wrong. Over the years, Prime watched as the universe he had helped create became corrupted. These new versions of the heroes were dark. They were edgier, morally grey. They were nothing like the heroes of the Golden Age. His heroes, the ones he remembered from his youth on Earth Prime. Enraged, he threw a punch at reality, at the narrative itself that he rejected, the one that he created, one that turned his favourite heroes into corrupted copies. And the narrative changed. Prime knew what he had to do, and Luthor knew how to do it. They sieged Earth 1 in hopes to return to his old universe, starting the Infinite Crisis. Superboy-Prime was given armor fashioned after the Anti-Monitor that can store solar energy and was let loose. He killed multiple Titans. He killed Superboy Connor Kent in a fit of jealousy and was even forced to kill his former idol, Earth 2 Superman, after he turned against him. It took the combined efforts of all of the Earth 1 superheroes, but eventually, he was defeated and imprisoned by the Green Lantern Corps under a red sun. He was trapped until the Sinestro Corps freed him. They wanted him to join them, and he did, but not out of any obligation or any desire for revenge. It was out of a desire to usurp them and return to Earth Prime. And, eventually, he would get his wish. During Final Crisis, he met a version of himself that had become the Time Trapper, and, like he always did, he lashed out. He attacked himself and caused a cosmic reset, somehow sending him back to Earth Prime. But it was not the home he remembered. He saw his parents. He saw Laurie again, but they were scared. They knew what he did. They read what he'd gone through. Prime returned to his old life, but without the love of his family, the love of his friends, and the love of Laurie, as a punishment for what he'd done. Night, to help recreate the multiverse. It asked for Wonder Woman, and he delivered. He would capture her, in an attempt to recreate his world yet again, but without the hatred he had received from his loved ones. During this attempt, her words reached him, somewhat. She told him that they were fighting for a multiverse where everyone could exist, including him and Earth Prime. It reminded him of his heroes. It reminded him of his Earth. It reminded him of Laurie. Tenuously, they formed an alliance against the Darkest Night. Before the final battle, Prime would be confronted by the other heroes, the heroes he'd hurt. They didn't trust him. They all rejected him. All except one, Crypto the Superdog, a bastion of the Golden Age, a symbol of the comics he loved. After all he did, he still saw good in him. He knew there was good in him. And that's when it appeared, the Darkest Night and his army. He fought against his soldiers, then decided to take on the Darkest Night alone. And he won, like Superman always does. He had all of the Darkest Night's power at his fingertips. He could annihilate the multiverse and recreate Earth Prime, like he'd always wanted. But then he hit a bark. He used all of its power to destroy it and the dark multiverse that it had created, sacrificing himself in the process. No one knew who had done it, and no one had to, because it wasn't about hate, or nostalgia, or being venerated as a superhero. It was about doing the right thing. It was about doing what Superman would do. Clark Kent was reading comic books, like he usually did, but something was different. He remembered everything that had happened to him, his redemption, his sacrifice. He was even holding his own death issue in his hands. He was back on Earth Prime. Everything had been restored to how it once was before the crisis on Infinite Earths. Well, almost everything. This time, he had a dog. Plus, he still had powers, and he could still help. And he did, because it's what Superman would do. But this story isn't over. In the current Superman run, the Time Traveler, who's also Doomsday, don't ask, enlisted Prime to help defeat a corrupted version of the Legion of Superheroes, and he stuck around. When the King Omega tournament started, Prime was left on Earth to defend against any threats that may appear while most of Earth's heroes were gone, and when Superman ascended to King Omega, it was up to Prime to take over the mantle. But due to his tumultuous past, he hasn't earned much trust from the other superheroes. But he's trying his best, following in his hero's footsteps and putting one foot in front of the other in hopes that one day he can stand beside his idol, Superman. Now that you know both combatants, it's time to get into the real meat of things. Given that this is a death battle prediction video, I'll be breaking things down like they do, using 4 categories. Let's start with stats. Stats is pretty clear cut. While Prime may have more impressive showings, with smashing reality apart, fighting waves of superheroes all at once, and beating the Darkest Night, Sentry should be around a similar level, via statements of being the strongest hero on the planet and fighting Worldbreaker Hulk, who can break the first firmament chains. Both have arguments of being stronger than each other, but generally, they should both be around a good few layers into outer. As heralds, it's obvious that they both get immeasurable speed. Stats is a tie, while powers, maybe not as easy. While sure, both of them do have a whole suite of powers to use, on paper, Sentry definitely takes the edge here. Except, it's not really that simple. While Sentry's powers do seem much better, Prime has ways to resist or counter pretty much all of them. Given Prime is a multiversal variant of Clark Kent, he should have resistance to having his molecules messed with. Telepathy is also a no-go, given that Martian Manhunter, someone who should have superior telepathy to Sentry, failed to read Prime's mind. Obviously, his sun powers would only power up Prime, and sucking out his solar energy wouldn't be particularly effective because of his suit's ability to store it. Even if Sentry was able to find out about his weakness to kryptonite, only kryptonite from Earth Prime is effective on Clark. Likewise, most of Prime's powers would be minor annoyances to Bob at best. Frost Breath and Laser Eyes aren't going to do much. So, powers is also a tie. Maybe smarts will be different. Or maybe not. While Bob is clearly brilliant, being able to work with Reed Richards and create a hyper-intelligent supercomputer, it's a pretty consistent plot point that he isn't the best fighter, or even a good one for that matter. And while Prime is clearly dumber, he does have a lot more fighting skill and experience, fighting waves of superheroes all at once. While Sentry does have a very unstable mental state, it's unlikely that the current version of Prime would exploit this. And while Prime's Fear of the Dark might come into play, current Prime would pretty easily power through it. And even if he couldn't, he could likely just escape anyways. Smarts is a tie. With 3 ties in a row, these two do seem pretty evenly matched. And they are. But there is one key difference, their meta-ness. While both characters have played around with the fourth wall, Kate clearly plays around with it more than Reynolds ever has. Obviously, the retcon punch is the big thing here. It's pretty difficult to put together an argument for Sentry resisting the manipulation of the narrative. While you could say that Sentry influenced Paul Jenkins to write about him, and that could count as a way to come back, Prime has also interacted with comic book writers, and in a much more physical way. Jenkins was never forced to write about Sentry. Bob just kind of put that idea in his head. Prime could pretty easily tell him not to, or steal all of his writing supplies or something. Even if Sentry does manage to kill Prime, he could just respawn back on his Earth and either smash his way back to the fight, or fly to Marvel offices and tell them to kill off Sentry. He could even fly to Liam Swan's house and force him to write that he wins. Meta-ness goes to Prime, giving him the edge he needs to finally beat Sentry. Sentry and Prime were definitely evenly matched in a lot of ways, but due to Kent's superior meta abilities, it looks like Sentry's time ran out. Now, it's Prime time. The winner is Superboy Prime.